This video is on symbolic interactionist theory. The basic premise of symbolic interactionism is this. It studies the interaction among humans, the everyday lives of humans, at the symbolic level. What is a symbol? Symbol is anything that humans use to communicate with each other. There are three major categories of symbols. The most commonly used symbol is language. We use language all the time to communicate. I'm using language now to communicate. If I send you an email or a text message, I'm using language to communicate with you. We use language to communicate our likes, our dislikes. We use it to communicate feelings about people. A boss might say to a male or a female, "You're a very good worker." A teacher might communicate to a student that the teacher feels that he or she is going to do very well in college. We use language to communicate many things, and it is the most commonly used symbol. We're using it all the time. The next category of symbols is what we call objects. We use objects to communicate with each other. For instance, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and very often sports fans will get the shirt of their favorite team or their favorite player, and they'll wear it. So a person might be wearing a Miami Dolphins shirt to say, "Hey, I'm a Dolphins fan, I like Dolphins." They might have the shirt with the name of their player or the number of their player on it to say, "This is my favorite player on the team." Okay, so we use objects to communicate with each other how we feel about certain things. For instance, we can use objects to communicate success. In sociology, we call these status symbols. A status symbol is a symbol, an object that we use to communicate success. So if I wanted to show you I was wealthy or rich, I could just talk and use language and say, "Hey, I'm wealthy and rich." But maybe a better way, and people do this all the time, is to have expensive clothing, right? And a few years ago, I saw a lot of students, and they were wearing shirts that said Calvin Klein on it. And I'm like, why do you have a shirt that says Calvin Klein? Because people don't wear shirts that say, Target or Walmart, well, because Calvin Klein's a designer name, isn't it? And therefore, maybe it's showing money or status or something, because obviously, you don't see people walking around with Walmart on their shirts. No. Again, I thought when I saw those shirts, that was my feeling, that that person was wearing that shirt as a way of showing, hey, I can afford to buy Calvin Klein shirts, my thought. Maybe they meant something else, but that's what I thought. Other objects that we could use to show success could be expensive jewelry, expensive watches, expensive sunglasses, and very importantly, people very often will use cars. Yeah. A person who has a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, people would say, hey, that person is a success because they can afford that car. What do you think is the ultimate status symbol, the ultimate object that represents success in American society? It's the home. Think about it. Yeah, a home. Because you know what? If you can afford a 10,000 square foot home, 7,000 square foot home sitting on top of the hill, you've got to have money. Isn't that true? And we've used the term trophy homes, where we feel that some individuals buy these huge homes as a way of showing that they have been successful. They've made it. They made a lot of money. So we call these status symbols. These are objects we use to represent success. Third category of symbols is what we would call a gesture. Gestures. Gesture is a physical act. A handshake is a gesture. Wave is a gesture. Smile is a gesture. Hug is a gesture. Kiss is a gesture. We use gestures to communicate with each other. If we haven't seen somebody in a while, an old friend, we might give them a hug. True? We might use a kiss to communicate a feeling. So for instance, if a male and female are out on a date, a first date, and they're saying goodnight, and the female doesn't want to communicate that she's romantically inclined, she might just shake his hand. Or she might maybe give the male a kiss on the cheek. She probably would not give him a kiss on the lips. In other words, if you're not romantically interested in somebody, would you give them a kiss on the lips, a French kiss as they call it, on the first date? Probably not. Again, that's an example of using a gesture to communicate feelings. And as we'll see in a later video, even something like distance can be used to communicate feelings about the other person, the people we're interacting with. In closing, in talking about symbols, I want to talk about what I call ambiguous symbols. Many symbols, not all, many symbols are ambiguous And what I mean by ambiguous is that the symbol has several possible interpretations. The word ambiguous means that it's not clearly defined. For instance, if I smile at you, what does that mean? Does it mean I love you, I like you, I want to be your friend, or am I just being cordial? Or maybe I'm smiling because I'm making fun of you. Really, I've been talking to people sometimes and they'll say stuff to me that makes no sense. And I'll smile, and they may think I like what they're saying, but in my mind, I'm thinking you're an idiot. You might call that a sarcastic smile. Or the word love. A male says to a female, I love you. Well, what does that mean? Does it mean he wants to spend the rest of his life with her? Does it mean he thinks she's a great person? Does it mean he wants to have sex with her and he figured he'd say, I love you, and hope to get lucky that way? What does the word love mean in that case? Again, there's a lot of ambiguity there. And when we look at the word love, keep this in mind. Depending on how we use the word love, it means something different. Between a male and a female, the use of the word love might mean one thing. Between a parent and a daughter or a son, it means something else. I love pizza. I don't want to marry pizza, and I definitely don't want to have sex with pizza, but I love pizza. So the word love can mean many different things depending on the context and the person we're using it with. So that could be an example of an ambiguous symbol. So we want to be careful when we look at symbols to make sure that we clearly understand what it means, because not all symbols are clear. Many are, but not all. To summarize again, there are three categories of symbols: language, the most commonly used symbol; objects, physical things that we use to represent, to communicate; and finally, gestures, which are physical acts that we use to communicate. This is symbolic interactionist theory.